Welcome everyone to Robot Builders Night Virtual for June 17th. And the DPRG news, we're going to visit Robot Lab in about a little under 2 weeks. Robot Lab headquarters is in South Lake, and we'll be able to view something like 30 or 40 or 50 robots in a static mode, and there'll be 1 or 2 that will be live. So there'll be a few robot lab people there that can activate and make work some of the mobile bases, because this club is really more about mobile bases than other types of robots. And so anyway, should be really good. We're going to have to participants will need to sign an NDA, so I'll coordinate sending that out through the email list. So keep an eye on email for NDA announcement, and collect the NDAs. And basically, it's a company, it's a commercial environment. There may be proprietary information that's disclosed during our visit, or that you happen across during our visit. So it's just like standard practice to put an NDA in place. So that's what that's all about.
Okay.
With that,
is there an RSVP for that? To say,
well, the NDA will be the RSVP. I'll take a signed NDA as an RSVP, and basically, if someone hasn't signed an NDA, then they won't be able to enter the building, because it's commercial environment, proprietary information. Got to respect that.
Yep.
So I'll circulate the NDA to anyone who's potentially coming on the visit. Make sure everyone's happy with it. That's all the DPRG news. And first in the queue, Carl has an interesting perspective that he talked about at the Robot Power Lunch on Sunday. So, Carl.
All righty. Okay, so this is a ChatGPT story, and if I can find the sharing button again, I'll share. Because I haven't been able to do robot stuff. I just get distracted by stuff that's broken and having to fix it. And so all right, this is visible now. My ChatGPT screen.
Yep.
Okay. So the context of this is that I had a bicycle for which the frame is a carbon fiber frame, and I guess I rode it too hard or something. Maybe I'm just too strong, because it started to break the carbon fiber down here. So this is the warranty replacement frame that, and it was really cool because the manufacturer did a full warranty replacement, and they paid for labor to move all the old hardware from the old frame to this frame.
Oh,
so that was pretty cool. And if you want to see, just for grins, I can show you what the original one looked like if you want, but this is about ChatGPT at the moment. So I got it home, and I started to actually I almost got it in the car, and I noticed there was this hole, and I didn't understand what the hole was for. So I went back in the store. I waited in line. The guys took it to the back, and there's like 10 people that worked there in the shop, and none of them knew what that hole was for. But they came out with this little rubber plug and said, "We don't know, but just plug it up. You're good." So it bothered me. And so this is the chat where you can see by how big the thumbnail is on the right here. See that? This chat's been going on for a while. So I have a bunch of interactions, because when the frame first started to fail, I was describing the symptoms to see if it could help me figure out what to look at. So all this stuff up above here is about diagnostics and what to do about it. And then actually the bit just before here, I tried to reverse engineer where does the replacement frame fit in their model, their product line. So anyhow, this is the cool thing. I had heard about it, but I'd never tried it before. But what you can do is you can upload photos and files for the machine to consider. All right. So I took this photo of my bike down in the area of concern, right? I gave it enough context that it could see a fair bit, but not the whole thing. And I said, great, thanks. That naming convention helps because I wanted to reinforce, how it gave a good answer leading up to that, where it told me how this frame fits in the whole family of products. Because I wanted to know what I bought, right? So I said, so I asked, and they said, great, thanks for that naming convention. Now, let's go back to the hole I mentioned, because until now, I'd only described it in words. I hadn't shown it any pictures. And I said, I'm not talking about the ICR port under the bottom bracket, because it had shown earlier in here, it had figured out that, this is called the, this is the seat stay, and this is the down tube. Oh, I screwed it up. Right. So this is the seat tube and the down tube, and the hole is in the seat tube. And then this thing right here where the axle goes to, that's called the bottom bracket. And there's this giant hole underneath because the cables for brakes and derailleur, they go underneath there. They come through the inside of the frame, and then they get exposed, and then they take that turn and go out the fork. So anyhow, that thing down there is called the ICR port. And I said, look, I'm not talking about what you had called earlier, the ICR port. Instead, I'm talking about the small not threaded hole in the down tube above the bottom bracket as shown as this photo. So I named it wrong because that's, in retrospect, that's the seat tube. But okay, so this is where it gets interesting because it thought for 1 minute and 42 seconds. And okay, this is a cool thing because I have the paid level, so I can choose from any of these different models, including their upcoming 4.5 and 4.1. So I spend most of my time in 03, which is advanced reasoning, and 4.0. And anyhow, so 03, the cool thing is that it shows you its kind of stream of consciousness as it's thinking through the problem. So, and normally this is just hidden like this, right? It goes straight into the answer. But if you expand that, and I think Grok, by the way, shows this kind of thinking pattern real time. But I like the way ChatGPT does it better. But look at the very first thing it did. Anybody recognize Python? It said, I was thinking how to extract some analysis. Maybe it shows in a useful way. I could potentially print out dimensions or even display things in ASCII, but that's not helpful. Jupyter could allow me to show it for myself. I wonder if a plot might help clarify things, even if I can't present it. So it analyzed the image, and it said, I'm looking at a small circular hole in the down tube above the bottom bracket. It estimated the dimension at 5 millimeters. Could it be related to internal routing? Blah, 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 blah. This hole might be for this, which is on there. It could also be for that. I'm recalling on some models, there's an exit hole for this, which is covered in this hardware. Looking closer at the image, I see a mechanical front derailleur, possibly a Shimano 105. And that's actually what it is. So from this image, it figured out it was a Shimano 105 derailleur. Because I didn't tell it that before, I don't think. So the
Wonder if one of the creators was a bike enthusiast,
I mean, this is crazy. So looking back, I think it might be this. A plastic guide should go there. Maybe the missing piece is this down tube cable exit. There's also mention of, because some of these high-end bikes have like electric shifters. So maybe it's the battery mount for the electric shifter. Mine doesn't, but then it searched the web and it looked around these different sources. And this is what I really like, because you can see the logic that it's going through and help figure out how it got to the answer it describes. So then it keeps going. Where's the part that gets fascinating to me? It has a lot of like restating what it's already stated. I don't quite understand, but you can see that it kind of goes around in circles. It's likely this. It revisits back to my question. Okay, they're asking about this. Okay, then it says, we should definitely show an image carousel with 4 images, 2 depicting the mechanical cable guide, 1 blank, and 1 with an installed example. The user's already posted their image, so we don't need separate ones, but showing the part will help clarify things. I've found a combination of images that should work well. We'll make sure to reference them properly. I mean, look at this. Then it keeps going. It keeps analyzing some more. It keeps analyzing. Oh, wait a minute. Shoot. Because at some point in here, maybe I skipped past it. Oh, yeah. Right. This is the part I missed. Looking at the image, I can see a mechanical front derailleur. Do I see a cable housing near the front derailleur? It's tricky. I can see the derailleur in silver, but I can't spot the cable entering from underneath. And then it says, I'll need to zoom in closer to confirm what's happening with the cable connection. So the darn thing zoomed in on the image, right? It did its own area of interest refinement. I mean, whoa, what the hell? So anyhow, after all that, it came through and it still gave the wrong answer, but because it mixed up the holes, but anyhow, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And then it showed like the images, it showed like this one, this image actually shows the hole. There's the hole right there, but it doesn't explain what it is. And this is a cable routing guide, so you can see how the internal cables run through the frame, but it doesn't show anything going in and out there. So my friends and I are guessing maybe it's like a manufacturing thing, some part of the manufacturing process or something. So anyhow, that was my
Maybe like an alignment hole to do some machining on other parts of the frame.
Who knows? I mean, because it's got plenty of other alignment holes and bigger ones too, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's got holes all over the place. But whatever it is, it's now got I RTV'd the plug in place, and I'm not worrying about it anymore. And I noticed that my friend's bike, which was 9 years older, he'd never noticed it before, but he has a plug surely for a hole in the same place. So whatever it is, it's been around a long time.
That automated reasoning process is pretty scary stuff, eh?
It is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But it in a way, to me, it brings it down to earth, right? Because it's much easier compared to some of these other models, like the 4.0 and the 4.5 and the ones you normally get for free. You just type in whatever prompt and then boom, out comes the answer.
I've been in brainstorming sessions, but they don't process that much material in 1.5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. But to see it, and yeah, so it's super cool. And you can imagine, at least I can imagine how somebody that's designing the structures of the neural nets and the layers of how they all work together, how this could be very useful to them. But for me, for my purposes, sometimes I get as much information about reading through its thinking process as I do the final answer. I mean, you remember, think back to college, right? Because they want you to write out your solution process, not just the answer, because they want to see how you arrived at the answer, right? And it's the same thing here, because you can get a lot of insight. I've picked up on some terms. I've picked up on some sources that I didn't know about. I picked up on a lot of stuff just by taking the time. I mean, it thought for 1 minute and 42 seconds. It took me 5 minutes to read it. So,
well, Carl, it did write it slow because it know you didn't read real fast. So,
and then, I mean, look, I mean, it's a totally polished presentation too. Here's the final result after all that. It gives a 4-image carousel. It has nice bolded headers with bolded things and simple to easy to read words. It has a nice little matrix there of a table with nicely columns, cover style, when it's used, what's the part number, what it looks like. I mean,
I wonder if
Yeah.
it was used to fish out your seat, stem in case it fell into the hole and you couldn't retrieve it or something.
yeah, who knows? It could be that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a really interesting discussion on AIs more broadly at the robot power lunch, and it was kind of eye-opening, and I feel like I'm seeing sort of another layer above where most of my family and friends live, that is sort of like a meta space that these AIs live in.
There's
Like,
something up there, Paul. I mean, it is. Just think of the distance between that and the average American, right?
yeah.
Talk about a spread.
And we're getting a view into it, and through sharing experiences like you've just related, we get to understand more about it. But we're seeing something that's kind of above the human experience in some way.
Yeah, I agree with you. So we just got to get ourselves and our families ready to deal with it, right? Because
Yeah, I'm not sure how this is all going to work out, but
Well, in improving, we have an edict. It's maybe not an edict, certainly not a mandate, but a heavily suggested thing that we incorporate AI into our daily workflow for everything that we do. For coders, we're helping us code. For the marketers, we're helping us, come up with a marketing thing. I mean, our thing is to incorporate as much as we can now, because they've seen the writing on the wall, and the big fear is AI going to take over? Is AI going to put me out of a job? Is AI going to put me as a programmer out of a job? Is AI going to put me as a whatever you're doing out of a job? The answer to that's no, at least not right now. We don't have Jarvis yet from the start, Tony Stark. But what is going to put you out of a job is the person next to you who knows how to use all these AI tools better than you do, and quicker than you do. That person will put you out of a job.
Yep.
It's just all there is to it.
Yep.
So we're trying to be a little ahead of I don't know that we're behind the game, but we're certainly trying to be more forward thinking and incorporate this stuff faster than not. I mean, like today I got up, I use a tool called Windsurf, which is based on an LLM called Claude. And I can do Copilot too, but Claude seems to be better doing it, the code stuff. And I said, listen, I've got a file here. What would you suggest I do to improve this file? And he goes, I do this, 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 and this, and I would actually extract this and do this and this. I said, go do it and let me verify all those changes before you actually do it. And it goes and does it. And then I walk through the changes. I said, yes, I'll be like that. Yes. No, we don't do that. Even though that's a good idea, you think it's a good idea. That's not how that really needs to work. And so I get to reject those changes, and I add those changes as I go because it's built into Visual Studio Code. It looks like Visual Studio Code. It's probably that underneath. It's got a front end on it that interfaces with the AI, allows you to walk through, and then it'll even check the code in for you when you're done with the thing. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
yeah, Korean into Windsurf.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's based on the open source foundations of VS Code, and they've done a nice job of really integrating it deeply into the whole flow. But you're sort of pointing. I think everybody. I don't know of any programmers who haven't already jumped on incorporating AI into their daily workflow. You kind of have to, just for the reasons that you said. And that's the scary thing, because we're already at a place where we can't walk it back. So, at some point it may become a function of more like desperation. And basically it's like we're already kowtowing to our new robot overlords, and they didn't have to fire a shot.
No.
But Kareem, I could argue that that's been going on for many decades, because and Harold uses the phrase.
There is something qualitatively different. I know that any technology can be used for good or for ill, and I'm not saying it's going to be used for ill. I'm just saying it's a vulnerability that we've slipped into so darn fast. And there's just no way of walking it back.
I'm with you on that, on the fast and the walking back. But my point is that I mean, I joined the workforce in the 80s thinking I'll just design whatever I need. I'll just design it. And then I started to realize that, wait a second, I'm just a plumber. I'm just pulling parts together that somebody else built. I'm just wiring stuff up. It's only marginally more exciting than buying stereo equipment and hooking that up, because some people have trouble with that, right? Mm-hmm. And the only difference is that I have a few more connections, and they're soldered together in a circuit card. And then that got even worse because microprocessors came along, because all the wonderful goodness is buried in these million and billion chip processors now, right? And all we do is wire stuff together. That's it. We're just glorified plumbers.
We're all system integrators.
System integrators. That's a better phrase, I suppose.
That's all we are.
Yeah. So to me, what this means is that the AI stuff, as always, there are people who can integrate more complex systems and people who integrate less complex systems, and the people who do the really complex ones are going to be the ones that are good at driving AI. I don't know.
I'd say you're right, and there's clearly people who can use it better than other people, and just like all tools in the past, that's like what separates people. But we're nearing a point where, but like you were talking about this meta business of what's going on above. I don't believe there's any volition in any of the AI systems that we have so far, right? So the point where it decides to take over your camera and get the next photo that it wants instead of just zooming in on the one that you provided, maybe that's coming someday. Because we don't seem to have the ability to not give it more access, not give it more control, because it's always going to be the person who does that first is going to be the one who has the short-term marginal advantage, and so we're in a race at this point, and I don't see any way to go back. When I say I don't see a way to walk it back, I don't see a way to walk the whole process back.
Yeah. It's a step change.
You're in a race, and second place is not necessarily terrible, but I usually call second place the first loser. But that kind of thing. But in this case, if it only takes a little bit of advantage to get on something, that's who you're going to say making the big noise, making the big thing, and until everybody catches up, and then they're already down the road. It's like, I don't think that's changed. I mean, because I'm sitting there thinking, I'm listening to all this, and I'm like, this is what we've been doing since I don't know if it's day zero, but the first of us that got a stick, and the other tribes people didn't have a stick, and I could use the stick. I was the king for a day or however long it was. It's just a new kind of stick.
Brains out of your opponent, you're saying?
Yeah,
Your
something like that.
It's the simple things.
I think we're just repeating that. We're just iterating on this thing and ramping it up. It's kind of cyclic and think it's kind of a loop that feeds itself into infinity. But we all know that doesn't end up well. So, but anyway, that's another story.
Someone at the Robot Power Lunch on Sunday asked the question: have we really has the singularity occurred? And how would you know? Yeah. It may have, and we wouldn't recognize it. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to Andre Childs, who just joined us. Hey, Andre, welcome. The Robot Power Lunch was announced on the DPRG mailing list. If you're on the are you on the DPRG email list? If you're not, send an email to president@dprg.org and I'll add you. But I wanted to give you a shout out because I was talking to Meshva Desai, and I believe you were at Roborama and you were talking to her for some period of time. She's the lady that's going to host us at the Robot Lab tour in a week and a half. So anyway, that's where I know your name from.
Oh, nice. That's really cool. Yeah, I had ran into her in February or March. I had gone to the Robo Lab, and I came into contact with a lot of the members there that work there, and yeah, just talked, and it seemed like a really cool group of people. And
yeah, that's right. She said that you're a member of the
robots.
Tech Titans, I believe, that she did a tour for.
I'm not a member of Tech Titans, but I had seen a bunch of her, like it was some meeting there. It seems that my network is not the best right now. But that's
to RBNV. We've gone through the queue of people who had something to present, and we're just in open mic mode at the moment, of whatever anyone has that they are interested in or have a problem with, or
okay. Yeah, I have just recently bought, I guess, my first robot. I'll call it my first robot. So I definitely want to start building it pretty soon, and I hope to join you guys. That'll be definitely a dream come true. Building that.
well, excellent. Well,
Yeah.
you know, there's a pretty experienced group in this on this weekly call, and we quite often have I've got a problem kind of discussions. In fact, I have a problem, and I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on how to debug this, but in a previous version of Minibot, so Minibot is the little robot I competed in Roborama, and in the Roborama configuration, I had this wave shared general driver for robots board that was driving the motors and the LiDAR and sending the data back to my laptop for inserting it into the ROS ecosystem. And I wanted to test it with the Raspberry Pi. And in a previous version, I think on 2404, I'd had the Raspberry Pi hooked up to the general driver for robots board, and there's some serial cables here coming from the general driver for robots board, one for the LiDAR, one for the control and data, IMU and such. And I used to be able to start up VNC, Tiger VNC on the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi is running Ubuntu 2404. And when I tried it after reassembling this configuration 6 months down the road, I can't get Tiger VNC to work. So if I try and launch Tiger VNC server when I've got a monitor hooked up to it, it just crashes and says some error message like unable to start the system, or something like really generic. And so I thought maybe it was due to there being actual physical monitor and it couldn't instantiate a second display. But then when I unhooked the monitor, it starts up and seems to have started correctly from all that I can tell, but I can't reach it over the network. I can't reach, the it on port 5901 from a client, and I checked the configuration file as because there's a configuration entry that says allow remote connections, and that's enabled as best I can tell. And then I'm sort of starting to worry about, is Wayland an issue these days? Because X11 is sort of going into the background and getting replaced by Wayland as a graphics module. So I don't know. That's all I know at the moment. But it's very frustrating because I'm stumped. I can't get a graphic console on the Raspberry Pi. If
On
anyone,
2404, they switched all of that stuff away from VNC by default to RDP.
what's the difference between RDP and VNC?
They're just different protocols. RDP is more generally more efficient. It was a Microsoft thing, and it's just become
Okay.
I
But it
guess
uses the same.
quicker implementation, certainly on Wayland.
Okay.
So by default, if you're just using the user interface on 2404 to enable remote access, it's actually turning on that and not VNC. And that was different in 2204.
I can bring up the config file if that would maybe help.
It's been a
So-
while since I looked at that, but that's how I use it. So
Rumina would be the RDP client, wouldn't it?
yeah, you can use Rumina.
I couldn't get Rumina to connect, but is there something?
You can also use Microsoft RDP on a Windows system if you're accessing it from one of those.
No, Rumina. I've got Rumina on a Linux client on my Linux laptop that I was trying to access it from. So, but it's still, I should be running Tiger VNC, right? Or is there some different server that I should run?
No, well, again, it's a matter of how you've installed Linux. But on 2404, you don't run a VNC server. You just if you've got a GUI, you're running desktop, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're using desktop, then when you just go in and turn on the remote access, you're turning on our RDP server running under Wayland.
Oh, how do I turn on remote access?
Well, it's a chicken and the egg problem because you got to have a monitor hooked up if you want to.
That's fine. I've got a
I
monitor.
mean, actually, you can do it from the command line, but that's where I would refer you back to ChatGPT, and it'll walk you through the steps.
Oh, so okay, maybe I should just turn the robot on and hook up my monitor. And so is this something like in Ubuntu, like up on the top of the desktop that lets you turn on remote
Yeah,
access?
you just go into settings.
Okay. And it's under, where would I find that setting?
It's probably under display settings. I could fire up my robot and take a look.
Okay, I don't see anything relevant under display settings.
Oh, that's the wrong robot. I assume you can't share it right now.
Let me think. I'm just hooking it up, but it, obviously, well, I could point the camera at my monitor, and I guess let me just get the keyboard and mouse hooked up and get it all powered up. Where's it go? So it may be that the last time I had it working was on 2204, and it may be that it's never worked on 2404.
Yeah, it definitely changed in that transition.
So I shouldn't run Tiger BNC on 2404 is what you're saying.
I assume that there's a way you can make it work, but it's not the default.
Not,
It's not what comes pre-installed.
okay, I'm just booting it up.
Did we scare off the new guy?
Maybe.
I was going to ask him what kind of kit he got.
Oh, it looks like we're down to five of us.
Oh, here he is. Andre's back.
Oh, okay.
So while this boots up, feel free, Kareem.
Kareem, do you give an hourly discount rate for club members? Or
Hey, Andre, did you share what kind of kit? Are you starting with a kit robot or what?
Yeah, I'm starting with a kit robot. Let me grab this thing. It's a free Nove.
What?
A free Nove. A big hexapod for Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
By
Cool.
free Nove.
Huh.
I can put a link in the chat.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm
I think
sharing
it's
the.
way at the bottom there on the left side, way at the bottom somewhere. It's
Let's
really
see, so
hard for me to make out your screen.
it's a Blair Witch advice, I guess. Running through the woods.
That's pretty fuzzy looking to me. I can't really make that out. Accessibility system. I think maybe it's privacy and security system.
Oh yeah, remote desktop.
There you go. Yeah, it's bizarrely
Oh,
hidden.
okay. I gotta hold on. I gotta authenticate. Right. Desktop sharing needs to be turned on,
There you go.
and remote control needs to be turned on. Ooh. Oh, and
You don't have to do remote control, but it can be nice.
Cool. Let me just try that. So then if I should be able to run Ramina on my desktop and connect to it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
There was one other gotcha. What was that? God, it's been ages since there was something tickling the back of my brain saying that there was some other thing that you wanted to set, but it's not coming to me right now.
Okay. Accepted. Oh, almost. I got a black screen with something written on it. And then when I tried to expand it, it closed. And there's a warning on the Raspberry Pi iBus notification. iBus should be called from the desktop session in Wayland. And then it says for KDE, you can launch system settings, utility, go to import devices, virtual keyboard, select iBus Wayland, and click apply to configure iBus in Wayland. For other desktop sessions, copy the exec line in org.freedesktop.ibus. Oh man. It almost worked, Kareem.
Don't think that those error messages are something I've come across before.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if I don't have the right password. That's certainly possible. I can set the password so I know what it is. Over on the Raspberry Pi. Oh, yeah, I didn't have the right password. That was probably why it didn't start. Okay, let me try that again. Oh. It starts to open up a black screen and then the black screen closes. So, but you got me further than I was, Kareem, and I wasn't getting anything before. So, it's a better start.
I think I wrote up a little bit about this in the document about my WaveShare rover.
I wonder if D-Message has anything.
An unrelated question. How many people have had issues with lightning strikes, destroying appliances, TVs, clothes washers, that kind of stuff? Nothing.
Mm.
In your neighborhoods, though, are your power lines buried? You don't have.
Mine's buried. But
Yeah.
I actually went and I put a whole house arrestor in when we wired the place for a Tesla. I had him install a whole house surge protector.
Okay, so like MOVs across the 120 volt rails. Or?
I would, well, the 240s. So I mean, it's about
Oh.
this big, and it's mounted in the wall.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
on the section of feed from the breaker box out to the curb.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's on the mains into the house.
Okay. Yep. Just across the.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go 120 volts to ground on either side. It's 240 and no ground.
I don't. I mean, I wrote a check, man. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I was kind of curious. Yeah.
All I know is that when they had the breakers off, because that's when we discovered what that hissing sound was inside the breaker panel. Because apparently, when they built the house, they were very, very bad, and they did not bother to cover up the bus bar before the texture guy came through. So they sprayed texture and paint on the bus bar, and then the electrician didn't worry about. I mean, a code schmoed. He didn't worry about that. So he just went and he pushed the breakers in so that they contacted the texture on the bus bar, right?
Oh,
So I move into the house, and for 5 years for 5 or 10 years, and what's that hissing sound from this one panel? What? It shouldn't do that. And then finally, when it came apart, because we had to expand it, the guy said, "This isn't right. This is where they have national standards and codes." So I called the original electricians, and they just washed their hands of it. So never going back and never touched them again.
Yep.
I mean, they were brazen enough to leave their name on the panel, but they were lousy enough to say, "I'm not going to touch that. It's too long ago. It wasn't our problem."
Oh, yeah. God, that sounds horrible. So did you smell like a burning smell or anything from the panel?
Nope.
It would just hiss.
It just sizzle now and then.
Huh.
And I mean, and this was like 24 years ago when we first moved in. I had X10 all over the house, and I had figured out that like I couldn't get the X10 signal from some rooms to other rooms, and it was finally when we were inside the breaker panel that I understood why, because the signal couldn't make it across that part of the bus bar.
Wow.
The high impedance bus bar.
Mm-hmm.
wow.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
Mm.
It was. I mean, in the research I saw, I don't know how many pictures of flamed electric panels and burned down houses.
Yeah.
Because of, I think the code term I learned is contaminants on the bus bar.
Mm.
So that guy should have had a license ding.
Yeah.
They don't keep records for that stuff, right? It's not like the aircraft industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
Sorry, go ahead.
the latest thing to go was a gate opener. So, and I don't know if you guys are experienced the chigger outbreak, but we certainly are. So it was really kind of nice to have gates that open by themselves, so you didn't have to get out of your car and get exposed to or bitten by chiggers. So I'm really motivated to fix this thing. But I took the cover off, and there were several components in the bottom of it, So it apparently, I don't know if it was direct hit or induced voltage through maybe the fencing or the post that it sat on or something. Maybe the post was hit and the potential was high enough that it just arced over everything. But and Mighty Mule I'm not certain what's in that control board, but it's close to $300, and it's not a very large board, or there's I don't know what the most expensive thing on it, maybe some of the MOVs on inputs or something, but so I'm gonna just gut it and make my own basically. And I tested the linear actuator, it still works. And that's kind of the most expensive part, but that board is outrageously priced. So anyway, that's what I've been working on lately is anti-chigger bite efforts to get the gate openers working again. So
It's always something, isn't it?
mm,
If only you had a sentient robot to do the chigger related work for you.
that would be nice. That's okay. I spent I wanted to see how well it would work. I 3D printed kind of like I don't know what you call it. It's like an optical shield. I was going to have sensors in, the back part of all these near the center hole here. And so that when I shined a, infrared laser across it, it would, only hit some of them because it, the depending on the angle, the fins would shield it. And anyway, so I bought like 40 of the infrared photodiodes or phototransistors. I'm not certain what they were, and searched for 2 hours and can't find the damn things. They're here somewhere, but I don't know where. So it's and I even went through some things twice. It's like, okay, maybe I just skipped over. It's like going. I don't know if you guys have them, but I have like,
I hate that.
boxes of parts that I haven't used yet that I bought a while ago, and
The
so I have
stack.
to, go through them all and figure out what they
I've got
are.
totes full of things I've never used.
What's that?
Totes.
Oh, you've got totes of stuff you haven't used yet?
Totes of stuff down there that I've never used. I just
Yeah.
throw them in there. I'll do it some one of these days.
Well,
Hey,
maybe
Paul,
I'll
I
show
just wanted to let you know
the
I
maker
sent the
space at
link.
some point. So
Paul, I just want to let you know I sent a link you should look at.
Okay, thank you. In email or Discord or what?
In chat here.
Okay. Thank you.
Has anybody else noticed that Paul is apparently transformed into that one robot from Lost in Space?
yeah. Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Those spinning-
Danger.
Okay.
Anyway, so the other thing, I bought a zero turn like a couple years ago, and it's pretty good to mow the lawn, but same thing with the chiggers. You're whipping grass particles and bugs and everything else all around, and again, I get covered in bites, so I'm really motivated to get one of the mowers working again that's automated, and so.
Did you get one working years ago that you was messing with? You got it functional?
Yeah, it was. I had two. One was really. It wasn't it wasn't autonomous. It was radio controlled, but it was an old Sears Ackerman steering kind of mower. And I did another one with 2 wheelchair motors and a B&O 055, and basically I was just using it as a compass. And on the wheelchair motors, I was using odometry, so I could pick an angle that I wanted to start mowing at. I'd like line it up with a fence line or a building or something, and it would basically kind of follow the mowing
Right.
pattern of just going back and forth, turning on the left wheel, turning on the right wheel. And that actually worked pretty good. It seemed pretty consistent. you could see where it would trace over its previous wheel track. So, and even with like kind of a dead band of plus or minus 1 degree, it would still stay pretty much on track. So, and that, so I wasn't using GPS at that point. So, and I've got plenty of wide open areas where I could RC it over to a starting point and, just start it off and, and there's,
You'd be out of the range of chiggers while you did that, though, right?
that's right. Hopefully. Yeah. So, and we have snakes. I don't like snakes. So it seems like every time I go out, I encounter one and it scares the crap out of me. It's like, oh, Jesus, snake. So we think some of them are cottonmouths. They're kind of a
That's
dark,
not good.
no, not good at all. And they're kind of hard to tell. I know rat snakes have kind of a really pointy tail, but
You're not going to get close enough to find out, though, right?
yeah, I don't really want to find out what species it is, but yeah. So there's all these motivating things for me to, get this stuff working again. Chiggers and snakes. Before I went on vacation, Carl, this may be of interest to you here. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
This may look familiar here, this platform.
Funny looking wheels. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
It's a ginormous battery.
Yep. Anyway, got one of those and played around with it. I was using 2 of the ST distance sensors.
Oh, cool.
One pointing off to the right and one straight ahead.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get away without using a rotating LiDAR. And I was, trying to basically use it the way Scott said he'd use his. He comes out of the gate and he recognizes the distance change, so he knows he's gone through the gate, or the goal rather, and then he can figure out how to line himself up with the long wall. And I was hoping to do the same thing with this, but I think I might have a little bit of a time advantage because I can kind of, I don't know, once you give it a command to move at a certain rate, it seems to stay pretty much in a straight line. I don't know if it's the
floor is homogeneously flat, and your wheel, and let's say that a close acquaintance of yours hasn't dropped it so that the wheel brackets have bent.
Oh,
yeah. And if the weight is balanced evenly.
Oh yeah, front to back.
So,
yeah.
But aside from that, 1 or 2 provisos, it does go remarkably straight. I mean, I did 4 corners 1 year and got it pretty close to the start with nothing but time and speed.
Oh really? Yeah. So you were using odometry and
No.
Oh, you weren't? Wow.
Velocity, speed control. That's it.
Okay.
And time.
Yeah. Okay.
And whatever errors were in there, however I did it, as I recall, they kind of it probably wasn't the most orthogonal of squares, but it made it pretty remarkably close to the beginning.
Huh.
Even on our favorite interactive classroom floor at the Makerspace.
Yeah. Yep. The other idea that I had was to use compressed air to blow the cans into the thing. And I had a platform that I tried to get going, but didn't have enough time. And
Yeah.
if, I can just grab a can and blow it into the goal, that should dramatically reduce the amount of time, that the back and forth.
Yeah. No doubt.
And
Are you going to try to
maintaining-
do that?
what's that?
Are you going to try and do that? I know you talked about it a while back.
Yeah, I still have the platform and stuff. I don't know if I ever showed it to you guys. But. Yep.
Paul, did you read the bit about the separate passwords?
Yeah, I did, and I've just been going through setting them, making sure they're right. And I ran LSOF -I:3389, and I get nothing shows, and also nothing shows when I run the sudo netstat command. So it's just
Well,
about to
some of
reboot.
those things might not take effect until you sort of log back in again.
Right. So it's just about to do a reboot and see if that fixed it.
You can just do a switch user to yourself, and that creates a new session too.
Okay.
But you should also the tricky bit is that if you go back in to look at those passwords again, it wipes them out. So you got to retype it in and make sure it's right. So yeah, it's pretty klutzy that way. And those are two separate passwords, and all those do is give you access to be able to start. Like they're not you can use the same password as your username, your user password, but they're really about just getting access to the ports.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for this, Kareem. I was totally off on the wrong track, so I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I wasted a lot of time on that a while back.
I didn't find much help in Google. Like,
Yeah,
ChatGPT, my friend. Put it to ChatGPT.
ChatGPT didn't know it either back then, but it might know it by now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here's the setup with the air tank on
Yeah.
a Go Build a platform. And I've got a solenoid valve there on the tank. And if I put 100 PSI in it, it can blow like 7 cans at least 10 feet. So
Pretty good.
yeah.
That's pretty good.
So,
Ray, that's cool, but for style points, if you could power your microprocessor with that compressed air, that would be a bonus.
there you go. Anyway, so hard to say whether it'll show up on the next Roborama or not, but I use the RoboClaw motor driver just because it's very easy to use, but I only have 4 of them, so I have to take it off the one platform and stick it on another one to use to experiment with that, and then put it back if I need to rebuild something. So I should probably find something that's a lot less expensive than a RoboClaw. So, but anyway, yeah, so it looks pretty promising. The just with a 1/4-inch copper tube, it doesn't seem like I have to form a nozzle or anything. Just the air ripping out of the end of the thing tends to shoot the can pretty straight. So
Will you be holding the can vertical and then just able to shoot it out there, or horizontal?
Vertical.
You gotta hold the can vertical.
Well, I grab the can with the claws so I can center it in front of the nozzle, and then I open the claw and hit the solenoid, and releases a
Hopefully it'll,
burst of air.
but I mean, hopefully it'll make it through the goal, huh?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's if it hits the goalpost, because it will launch it at like kind of an arc, depending on where the nozzle is with respect to the can. And but for the most part, it seems to be pretty straight. So, and if I don't have to do the back and forth, if I can just go from can to can to can,
All right.
it should cut down on the total time. So 2 minutes and 5 seconds is the time to beat. Doesn't seem like that's a very short time. You would think it should be possible to do it in less time, but
I'm actually got an idea myself, and I'm going to get involved hopefully next time. But I'm just going to try to. I just want to make the 5-minute go. I just want to be able to participate, and I'm going to just try to use odometry because I've got that straight line, the quick trip. I got a program that loops 6 times. It'll do it 6 times. And my robot will do it. I mean, except I have to turn and pick up a can. But I also had an idea. Let me tell this back. I went and bought these just the other day. These Luna TF.
oh
Luna.
yeah.
Have you ever used those? They supposedly have a 2 degree field of
Being
view.
with- yeah. I've used the Benawaki ones. I think those are similar to that.
So I was thinking of taking 2 of these and putting them, one in the front and one in the back of the robot, and bounce it off the wall to straighten up my robot. Like a
Mhm.
wall following.
Yeah.
You know how wall following works, right? You just keep the 2 sensors.
Yeah.
Once it's straight, what I'm thinking is once I know that it's straight, I can just go into the quick trip code I have and go straight.
hmm
So I'm thinking about maybe that might work. Until I sense a can and I go pick a can up. And I'm thinking about using this wall following idea to keep it straight. I don't know.
Yeah. With 2 sensors, you should be able to figure out, after you grab a can, what your angle is to one of the walls.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if you got 2, like for instance, if you've got 2 of these pointing at one wall, if you're at an angle, you could straighten it out and head toward the goal. Right?
Yeah. But you also have to figure out how far away from the goal you are. So if you had like odometry or something.
Well, you'd use a switch like you do when you hit the top of the goal.
Yeah.
It tells you hey, I'm at the goal, let's drop the can.
Yeah, you could do that. So once you come out of the goal, how far back did you go to get a can?
Well, you can when you're going back, you don't actually turn it back around, you just go backwards.
So you're just gonna go backwards?
Just go backwards and scan for another can on one side. And then just like maybe scan one side with another sensor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to go on the cheap here, you know what I'm saying? Without all the and of course you could use another switch to tell you at the other end of the goal. If you're back at the other end.
Switches work pretty good, they don't consume any power until you hit it.
Yeah. What do you think about that? I think like it might work.
Yeah, if it's kind of like if you can figure out kind of your XY position on the goal with either odometry or distance sensors off one side, off the long wall. I thought about not turning around, just backing up and looking for the next can. So,
Well, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna see how these sensors work. I don't know if anybody's messed with them, but they're supposed to be pretty accurate.
Yeah,
And
it kind of looks like the Benawaki ones. So
this is made by who makes these?
Okay, guys, I'm going to drop. I'm going to go see what the Ross call from HBIC is all about. I'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Okay, all right, Paul. That is a Benawaki. That's what this is.
oh, it is. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And
It
you
looks
used
like one.
one? You used one or something like it?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. For some time, I actually had it on a servo, and I would scan 180 degrees in front of the robot and look for big jumps in distance at some angle. And then once you find those two, like if you're scanning, say, from the inside of the goal to one side of the goal, you'll get a big increase on the one side and a big decrease on the other side. And the Beniwakis were whatever you had behind the goal, it could still read, usually a wall or something. So you could, pretty much tell where the edges of the goal were. And so once you have those two angles, you just find the angle in between the two, and I would rotate to that. And then, so it was like a rotate or point and shoot, so it would rotate to where I thought the center of the goal was and drive through it. So,
well, in that LiDAR you had on the 6 can that the one you've been using, is that a Benawaki? Is that
it used to be, yeah.
one?
Yeah.
They're big.
Oh,
It's bigger than these.
yeah, I used to have a LiDAR light.
Binoculars.
And then I went to the Benawaki, which is smaller. But yeah, I think Garmin owns LiDAR light now. So
if nothing else, I can, when I'm done, if it doesn't work, I just throw it in that tote back there I got.
There you go. So
what was that system
guys
you
like us
showed earlier?
keep those companies in business, buying all kinds of crap we'll never use.
Oh, I'll tell you a little story real quick about this. I got this at Mauser. I bought 2 of them at Mauser, and I live down the street from Mauser. So sometimes I go down there. $9. They charged me a $9 tariff charge.
Oh, they did.
On that. And they kept it separate. And I looked on Amazon, and if I would have bought it on Amazon, according to me checking out, they wouldn't have charged me a tariff on Amazon.
Yeah.
But they charged me $9. I bought 2 of these for $22 a piece, or $22 a piece, and plus a $9 tariff.
Yeah.
So that's just interesting.
Yeah, I've still got some stuff coming from AliExpress, and they've added a little bit, and they kind of tell you what it is, but it seems pretty minimal so far.
Yeah, that's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
I ended up paying what I would have done for one of these on Amazon anyway. Just tariff was kind of, maybe they charge you tariff on Amazon, they just don't tell you.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
anyway, so there's also I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to do it, but I had I put a hydraulic differential on one of the lawnmowers, and one of the things that since it's differential, if you break one side, the other side will keep spinning. So I bought 2 disc brakes that I haven't put on yet. So, and that's a lot more crude as far as using 2 like electric wheelchair motors. but I think it can be, I think it can be done fairly easy with a servo. And so kind of in a, non-turning position will be straight up, pulling the one side, or pulling the servo arm to a little bit to the one side will, say, brake the right side. And braking the right side will, keeps the left wheel moving or rotating. So you're actually turned towards the right, and vice versa with the left side. So if you brake the left side, the right side keeps spinning and you actually turn left. So the front wheels would, instead of, they would just be like casters, because you'd actually be steering with the rear wheels. But I don't know how reactive it is. Like if you're on like my driveway is a little bit elevated, and if I mow down the edge of the driveway, the tendency is for the thing to get itself off the hill or off the incline. And I don't know how well it could, or how quickly it could respond to that, because it's, it's going to be a mechanical system. So,
Right.
but I have the parts for it. I may just try it just to see how well it works. So,
Of course.
yeah, but
Are you gonna ever try to put a GPS on that lawnmower?
yeah, I'd like to. I think it's been several years now, but there was a guy that I don't know. It kind of sounded like Southern Engineering, and he, it's like Southern Engineering means you're cobbing stuff together, But anyway, he had a mower that used GPS RTK, and he actually used CNC software to basically do the fill areas. So it's like where you'd want to back and forth.
He just
cut
used
motion.
CNC. I get it. Yeah, I can see how that would work.
So, and he was, he was just putting in coordinates.
Yeah, put it in GPS. Yeah, I mean CNC coordinates, X, Y,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yep.
I could see that working. Absolutely.
So,
For a while.
yeah, he could get it so, he could mow around, trees or shrubs or, landscape edging or, walls and that kind of stuff pretty accurately, because, GPS is good. At least the better GPSs are down to like about a centimeter or so accuracy.
Wow.
So, yeah, so he can pretty much, once he gets it down, I mean, the plate tectonics move pretty slow. So, he may have to adjust his GPS coordinates maybe every so often, but yeah, that looked kind of neat. I think neat thing to do. So, but yeah, the other, maybe I shouldn't have, 15 acres to maintain or to mess with, but the other thing I hate to do is mow. So it's like every year, not unless you spray pretty heavy for weeds, you will get a bumper crop of weeds. And cattle don't really like to eat the weeds. They really prefer to eat the grass, and and high protein grasses at that, not just any grass. But so one of the things you can do is, it's like a mechanical method of killing weeds. Basically, once the weeds come up, typically they grow faster than the grass does, and they'll start to put out flowers. So
Right.
you can just mow down chop the flowers off pretty much, and you drastically reduce how much they'll spread, because you cut the flowers off and they don't produce seeds. So, and anyway, so
That's why I
Another-
like August in Texas, because my yard dies. So, you don't have to cut it But,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We're not to that point yet, though. It's still thriving. You know, it's like it seems like I have to cut it once a week. You know, it grows
I
4 or
know.
5 inches in a
I cut
week.
mine today.
So all the unpleasant things, you know, the sun beating down on you, the bugs, you know, biting the hell out of you. You know, it's just yeah. I don't have an air conditioned cab tractor, so you know, I'm exposed out there. So
You could get the wife to cut it. That might help.
actually, she does the trimming around you know, and the edging, and
Okay,
I you know drive
the big one,
the
right?
zero turn. So yeah, we had an incident where on one of the older mowers, I think she confused which pedal was which, and she actually ran into the garage door with it, you know, and put 2 dents in the garage, like a brand new garage door. It's like, what are you doing? So I haven't let her use the zero turn yet. So
But she's been grounded.
yeah, yeah. She keeps suggesting though, you know, I could drive that zero turn. So it's like, but yeah, next time she may just demand. It's like, nope, I'm going to drive the zero turn today. So, but anyway, ranch life, you know, lightning strikes, snakes, chiggers. It's rough. Sun beating down on you.
Yeah. Well, see, I've been blessed with. I live in a mobile home park, so my lawn takes me 30 minutes max, and I'm still complaining about it. You know.
Yep.
So you're gonna try the 6. You're gonna try the 6 cam this next time. You think?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I want to
I am
do,
too. I'm gonna try to take it as far as I can. You know.
well, good.
I've
Yeah, we
got
could
I've
probably
got
hit
an
that.
idea, and the main thing is I can comprehend the code part of it in my head on how to, you know, this is the way this is working. It's on my level of thinking, so you know that
Mhm.
helps a lot.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and we haven't done it in the past, but you know, we should, you know, and I don't know if Scott will ever do it, but I was thinking maybe we should get into a little more code sharing to,
oh yeah,
you know, help other club members
have a
along.
code sharing party and just forget to bring yours, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. I've looked into too many things. Like one of the other things was I got several hoverboards, and those have 3-phase motors in them.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I had one of them.
Oh, you have one now?
No, I think I threw it away. I don't know what it's gone. I
Oh.
don't know. Maybe one of the neighbor kids stole it or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It was under my porch,
Oh,
and it was one that was just sitting around. And so you've talked about using one of them before in the
yeah.
past.
Yeah, they're kind of neat. They have a driver board inside. Most of them have switches on the top, so when you fall off, it turns itself off. But that's pretty easy to defeat. It's just a little opto interrupter on the one board, and the little switches are just, you know, kind of spring loaded, and just the weight of your body on it, you know, closes the switches. So, but I was thinking of trying to get one of those going. Even different manufacturers, they all seem to do about the same thing. They have basically, I think it's a cable with 6 signals. So the 3 phases of the motor are shared. there's like an analog TAC output, and then
Is it
VCC
are
and
they
ground.
DC, right?
Yeah, well, they're three-phase brushless motors, so you actually drive them
Isn't
with
that
AC
isn't that like
waveform.
isn't that like a I don't know, I might not. It sounds like that could be like an industrial servo, like a stepper motor. Does it work like a stepper motor?
It's similar. Instead of like, yeah, I think most stepper motors are going to have two sets of windings. This actually has three. So it's electrically probably closer to like a three-phase motor.
Right, right.
Yeah. So you actually drive them with AC signals, but there's boards that generate that for you. So
Yeah, it's right.
it's not
Yeah, I
that.
know what you're talking about. Motor drives.
Yeah.
And they simulate an AC pulse,
Right.
an AC
So
wave using pulse width modulation.
yeah. So anyway, the pretty much all of those, they have two controller boards, a battery pack in the center, and they actually have like it's almost like a tilt switch, and the more you push forward, say on the two sides of the hoverboard, the faster the thing will go. And so you push the fronts down and you'll move forward, and if you get it back to level, you'll stop, and then if you push on the on the back side, it'll go in reverse. So so it's just reading that tilt switch on both sides to try to figure out how to drive the motor. So I haven't hacked one yet, but I think instead of pretty much gutting the thing and using separate motor drivers, I could use the motor drivers in the unit. So
Right.
I just have to figure out what signals they're getting off the tilt switch, and have a processor do that versus it read the tilt switch. The other thing you could do is you could have two servos that tilt the thing, and not leave the mechanism completely alone, because if you tilt it at a certain amount, it should go at a certain
Right,
speed.
right.
So
It just do it. It just rock back and forth with servos, right?
yeah. And I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they actually make it's kind of like a thing that you attach to the hoverboard, and it's got two handles on it, and it's got a pretty good sized seat on it with a low back, and it's got like a metal rod with I think it's just a single caster in the front, and it's got like a crossbar to put your feet on.
Yeah.
And so you can sit on the thing and pull these two levers back and forth, which tilt the two surfaces to
Turns it into a scooter, right?
yeah, it pretty much turns it into a scooter. So but and I've seen those at the Goodwill. I never purchased one, but because I want to try to hack it and find the where the tilt switch output is, and try to make a cut on the printed circuit board and make a connection to a processor to do the same sort of thing. But it's pretty much got a lot of the stuff that you need for an outdoor platform, and the things can haul like 220-pound person, so it should have enough energy to get maybe a, I don't know, 20 or even 30-pound robot moving around on the course that they set up. So this one that I found, the wheels on it were bigger. I've never seen one with the wheels on it this big, but I don't know, these may be like 10-inch wheels on this thing. Most of them are smaller, and
Man.
it's a beast. It weighs a ton, but
Does it still run?
Yeah, that one actually has pneumatic tires that you know you got to pressurize. So
Yeah,
but-
that's the one you need to do for Robo Columbus.
yeah, that would be a good one. So give it, you know, enough traction and enough ground clearance, and it should do okay. So, and they were cheap, and I've seen them at Goodwill's every so often, and but you know, so it could be a kind of a cheap platform to play around with that doesn't cost that much, and you know, maybe we'll be competitive with what Scott has sunk. I don't know if he's up to $1,000 on his platform yet. Maybe more. Hard to say.
On his Robo Columbus.
Yeah, the platform that he uses there.
Yeah, that's I didn't go to that one this last year, but I watched it. I was watching it the other day.
Yep.
Some of them. And
yeah, he's got some premium components there.
he sure does.
Yeah. He's got GPS RTK. He's got higher end LiDARs. I think, I'm not certain if he's got like a substitute IMU, but I don't think he's using like a BNO 055 or anything like that. So, but
Well,
anyway,
I'm gonna try to tackle that 6 can and see what happens. I mean, if you don't see me there with a robot, then you know I give up. So, but I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah.
I think I've got a strategy in my mind. At least it's gonna work. So, all righty.